Hello there, this is Keith with How to Build Your Own Home. Every Thursday, we have live chat where you can talk with the general contractor, ask any question, and if I can answer it, I'll answer it. I want to get started here while people are chiming in with a big revelation on bidding. Last week we talked about windows, or actually the week before. I was on vacation last week, and my sons kind of pitched in. I want to thank everybody for the feedback they gave us, what they want to see on the channel, posts, so that kind of thing. But 2 weeks ago, I talked about windows, and I was in the middle of bidding windows, and I want to share with you what I found. And this is why I have not really spent a lot of time delving into windows. Now, in my program at How to Build Your Own Home, in the I think it's 17.1, it's one of the modules, I have like a 5-page detailed breakdown of windows, what to look for, what to avoid, key factors, just a whole slew of information that's very, very helpful in helping you decide the windows you should get, whether they're fiberglass, aluminum, vinyl, or a composite of some kind. That is in the program at How to Build Your Own Home. And I think it's module number 17.1 or 17.3. It's one of those. But I wanted to share with you some bids I got. And this really tells why it's been very, very difficult to really talk about windows, because the price point is literally all over the map. Here is a bid I got. And I don't know if I should mention the name. I really like these companies. I love their technology. I'm not really here to diss or to do pros and cons of their windows, but I wanted to help you see if you went for the highest end window, the high, and this is a bid, 3 bids I got, and they're for the same home, same number of windows, same home, same build, the whole 9 yards. This one here came in, if you can imagine, the best window you could get, triple pane, a European style, low E glass windows that you could feel and touch during the winter time, and you're not going to feel the minus 30 degrees outside. It's going to be literally a thermal break of the best kind you can imagine. And the bid came in for these windows for $131,000. $853. So $131,853. Top of the line windows, manufactured in Europe, and it costs almost $8,000 just to ship them here in a container. Okay, that's the first bid that I got. All right, top of the line, best windows you can get, European windows, shipped in a shipping container directly to your job site. All right. The next one was a very high-end new technology that manufactures the windows here in Colorado, not here in Utah, but in the States, in Colorado. And they actually say, this new company indicates that they can mimic the performance of the highest end technology for not nearly the price. So what was the price that came in? And it's not triple pane, it's just a new technology that has a better thermal break between the double panes of glass than triple pane glass. And their bid came in at, drum roll, $74,826. Okay. So again, first bid, $131,000, second bid, $74,000. All right. What do you think the bid came in for standard, typical builder grade windows, double pane, low E, no real thermal break technology in the windows. And these here are vinyl. All right. These two both are aluminum, all right, with a thermal break inside the aluminum frame. But this one here is vinyl. What do you think that bid came in at? Anyone want to guess? That came in at $24,422. Okay. Now you can see why builders typically don't build with this, and they build with this. Now I can get this bid even lower. I can get some really low grade windows for probably maybe $15,000, $16,000 if I wanted to. And that's what you call builder grade windows. Now, these here aren't that bad. These here are, AMSCIL study vinyl windows and patio doors. So it includes the doors. These windows over here, they do not include the doors. I have 1, 2, 3 major sliders. So this bit actually includes the slider doors. This one does not. And low-E glass, labor, delivery windows to job site, installation of the doors only, not the installation of the windows, because my framer does that. Again, $24,000. So this is why it's been a very difficult thing for me to try to talk about windows, because I could talk about, there's a lot of YouTube channels out there that talk about the best of the best of the best, and this is what you want. This is high grade. I love that performance. I love that detail. And those channels that talk about that. The problem is they never really talk about the price. They never really tell you what the real cost is for going with that high-end technology. Now, here's the challenge. If you look at that window behind me right there, around that window is OmniBlock, and that's probably the best envelope of the home that I've been able to find. Now, I could probably maybe come close to it with a typical 2x6 with some other insulation, rain screen on the outside, and I could really come close to that, probably at a higher cost, much higher cost. But that window is my weak link. The window is the part in your home when you have extreme climate issues. That's where all your energy is going. We know that heat chases cold. So in a cold winter night, cold day, which I don't have too many of them, but it can get down below freezing, I'm losing heat through that window. All right. Even though I have a thermal break in the window, the vinyl itself, and even though I have argon gas between the double panes, there's still a breakage, meaning that I'm losing energy through that window. And if you go through your home and on the northern side or the cold side of your house, that's where you're losing energy. Now, I live in a very moderate climate. I live in a climate that does not have those extremes where I have sustained cold below freezing for a long period of time. I don't even have that. I might have close to freezing temperatures for the evening, but then the next day comes and it warms up. All right. So there's really not much of a benefit to put in some very high performance windows, even on the north side of my house right here. Would I like them? Sure. Can I afford them? Not really. And so that's why I have to go with an affordable range of window. And you have to start now. If I were to go do a whole nother range of bidding, I'd start getting some bids for maybe some Anderson windows, maybe some Pella windows, maybe seeing if I can get a little better grade, but not pay the high price of those, which is $74,000 and $131,000. I wouldn't mind if I could get some really nice higher grade windows, maybe in aluminum, because aluminum actually has a stronger structure to it. And some of these windows are large, and I'd be worried about them not having the rigidity you need for those windows. And I wouldn't mind going $32,000, but can I find some higher grade windows for that? That's where you start to get bids and you start to say, oh, I can't afford that, but this is closer to what I need. But I really would like some windows. I really don't want those AMSCO windows. Can I afford Anderson? Can I afford Pella? Can I afford any of these others that have some higher grade windows? And that's where you'll find windows is probably the most variable price of anything you'll put on your home, period. The only other thing that I can think of that would be a variable price would maybe be the roof if you put Tesla's solar panel shingles on your roof, but those haven't been proven quite yet. But that could also show very high-end costs for roofing versus very, very low-end on roofing. But windows are the thing I have avoided because of this issue. The price point on windows is all over the place, like you've seen here. Literally 5, 7, 10 times almost what the low-grade builder-grade windows are. And so people can talk about technology, and I love performance. I love new technology. But windows have a long way to go still. The technology's there, but the price point's not there. And why is the price point not there? Well, I'll tell you why. Because people don't know about this advanced technology. By the way, this is Alpin windows, and I love the company. If I could afford them on a particular job, I'd put them on. This is Zolo windows. Love the company. Great technology. If I could afford to put them in the homes I'm building for some of my clients, I would in a heartbeat. But they're not in the market that much because people don't know about those technologies. And I'll give you a little skinny on the problem with technology not penetrating the market. And if technology could penetrate the market, they'd have more cells. They could actually be more efficient on their manufacturing, maybe open up new manufacturing plants closer to where the cells are taking place, and therefore be more competitive and start dropping their price. That doesn't happen because not enough builders and not enough clients who can afford these windows are informed about those windows. And how do you get informed? Well, you have to research, but most builders and a lot of clients don't research those windows. So therefore, they're never known or informed about the better, highest quality window. But more importantly, they're not penetrating the market. And the only way to do that is to get samples of these windows inside supply houses. So I have 4 to 5 supply houses in town here that sell windows. They specialize in windows. Okay. Got USI. I've got a place called Jones Paint and Glass. I got a company I use called Sun City Glass, several others. And these are local supply houses. And they typically don't have a showroom or at least an efficient or cross selection of opportunities with windows in a showroom. They just don't have that. And so as a result, builders and even owner builders come into those supply houses, look at what's there, and they end up buying what's there. They're not told that there's something else. Or they're not told, like I'm working with a client now, where it's possible where we don't know yet, but we could go with some higher end windows on the north facing of the house where it's colder, because we're going to have some big windows facing the north side of the home. And that's going to be cold for, 4 to 5 months of the year. And that could affect the efficiency of the heat inside the home. It's possible that we could go a higher grade on the north side of the home, but on the east and west and on the south facing of the home, where we're going to deal with some passive energy, we may not go with a higher grade. So therefore, with that mixture, they could afford that. Now, if the builders in town don't know that that mixture could be available, if they don't go into a supply house and see those samples, they're not going to buy them. And that's the biggest problem in the market and in my industry is I'll go to a concrete supply company. I'll go to a window manufacturer supply house. I'll go to a lumber yard. I'll go to a plumber supply house, and all these supply houses in my community. And you don't see new technology there. I'll go to a roofing supply company, and I asked them, can you please supply the roofing product that I use? And they go, what do you use? I told them what I use. I don't think we're interested in that. And that's the problem. That's part of the reason why a lot of new technologies don't get promoted in the market, is because one of the number one places for new technologies to penetrate is in local supply houses. And they don't get promoted there. I believe that if a lot of supply houses offered these and said, these are high end, and here's a sample one, go take a look at it, and here's all the features and benefits. There's enough here in my town that would afford that would say, yes, we want those. I want those windows in my home. But they don't know. And it takes a lot of deep diving and a lot of research to find some of these technologies. Anyway, I wanted to give a feedback as to why I've put off windows, because it was a really hard thing to put my teeth into to really help you see. I don't want to discourage people. I want people to find what's out there, something that's going to help them. But when I'm dealing with clients, when I'm trying to put together a budget, I know this won't fly for the entire home. It may work for a couple of windows, but not for the entire home. It takes a deep pocket when you're going to say 10% of the home is in windows. If you're building $1 million home and over 10% of that home is strictly in windows, you're going to push the price point of that home so far high that now they're not going to want to build that home. And typically with a luxury build, you're north of $300 a square foot. I've built homes that are $1,800 a square foot, if you can imagine that. And then I've built homes that are around, going back now 15, 20 years, below $150 a square foot. I've even owner built homes that are closer to $100 a square foot, even $89 a square foot. This is dating me. This is going way back in time. But when you start picking really expensive products to put in your home, it pushes that price point. And windows do that more than anything else. If you want to go high grade, super high grade on windows, it's going to push you. If you're trying to stay around $200 a square foot, but you're going to go expensive, super expensive on windows, it's going to push that north of $300 a square foot. So that's the problem with windows. It can do that to your budget more than anything, just more than anything. If you have any questions on that, feedback, please let me know. Let's go ahead and start taking some questions. And if you have some ideas on what you think you'd like me to get bids on, like what are 3-4 bids on this and that, just let me know, and we'll try to add that to my notes as we go. And it's fun, but this was a good exercise, and maybe I should post this on my website, not my website, in a training program as an example of super, super high, very high, and low grade builder grade cost. And when you see that, you go, wow, I got to do some more research. And then you start getting more bids, and then you start getting that ratio that you're comfortable with. And anyway, it was fun. Let's answer some questions here from people. We got Kai Hun, hope I said that right. Huyen asks a question: in percentage with related to the overall build cost, what percentage are they? These here on the overall build cost, the Zolo windows would be probably 14% of the build. That's a huge amount. That's a huge amount. And that's just for windows. So the other one might be, 8 or 9%. But the lowest bid would be maybe 1.5 to 2, possibly, but maybe 1.5%. And that's what you're fighting. And you're fighting for one piece of technology to just throw your budget so out of whack, it makes it unaffordable. So next question. Let's see. Alex R. Alex R. Hi, Keith. Can you talk more about pricing for trades? I know it can vary greatly, but by area. But how can I estimate the work myself from my house plans, because I've been having trouble getting bids back? First of all, don't call yourself an owner builder, and don't give a personal email. Manufacture a builder looking email like joesconstruction@gmail.com or Joey Misty or Misty and Joe at builders.com, gmail.com, some sort of an email. If they get wind that you're an owner builder, they might be slow to react. That's the first thing to do. Second thing to do is for pricing for trades. That's a good question. It's really different in a lot of areas, and I'll give you 3 examples. Like in painting, I never have my painter bid my jobs. Why? Because I know what his prices are. He's $375 a square foot, triple tone, over, not anything over 11 feet. Once it gets to be over 11 feet, then I need to call him, and he gives me a price as to where it should be, and then I put that in. And then garages are about $1.50 a square foot to paint the whole garage. So I just look at my square footage. I look at my garage square footage. I know that the ceiling height is a certain amount, and I plug that in, and I'm good to go. All right. Framing, almost the same. Framing is variable in a lot of areas, and it's based upon the square footage of the home. And if there's any complexity like metal beam work or stuff like that, then it can go up. But I've seen framing right now in the United States. You can get a framer for as low as $9 a square foot to as high as $35 or north of $35 a square foot. It's that variable. That's why you want to build in an area where Well, if you're building in a high growth area, typically framers are going to be a little more pricey because they're going to have plenty of work and they're going to put their price point where they want it to be. But if you're building in an area where there's not a lot of growth and not a lot of framers, then that price point might be a little lower. Rural areas tend to have more affordability with framers than higher metropolitan city areas. You go to LA, you're going to pay $24, north of $25 a square foot, maybe lower if you can negotiate the price down. Versus my area, I can get framers, good ones, for around $12 a square foot. I pay around $14 a square foot because I don't want any mess ups and I want the best framer because of the homes I build. And that's still what I have found to be a good price point for getting framers. I don't like to pay more than that because I don't like to be the highest paid a contractor in the area paying framers more than anyone else. I don't like to be that either. So, and it's the same thing with tile and countertops. And countertops can be anywhere from $29 a square foot to $70, $80 a square foot. So I do an allowance on my budgets, and I'll go $46 a square foot. I'll look at the counter space on my plans. I'll add it up because it's based upon a quarter inch is a square foot or other dimension, and you add up your square footage and you'll say, okay, I'll give my clients a $46 allowance on countertops, which means they can go pick up any countertop they want as long as they're under $46 a square foot. And I don't have to have specific specifications. I don't have to have specific bids on a lot of stuff. I just give a high allowance. And if you're moving through your budget and you want to get things done, but have comfortable flexibility in your budget, that's the way to go. And on the budget, just write $2,900 vanity countertops allowance. And you'll look inside that budget that you can download in the download section. And there's a lot of line items that say allowance, allowance, allowance. And I do that because that's what I do as a builder, because it gives me flexibility and it gives my clients a lot of flexibility on where they should price things. But if you're trying to create a budget where you know exactly how much you want to spend, that's going to take more time. That's going to take a lot more effort, and you have to send it out to bid, and it's going to take you a lot of effort. But if you can call people and they're not bidding and not getting you a bid, and it's like a piecework job where it's square footage, you say, tell you what, I'm just trying to get this put together and I really like your work. Say something nice about them. What I've heard your work and I really like your work. Just can you tell me what your square footage is so I can put some budgets together, and then I can call you when I'm ready. Oh yeah, I'm XYZ's. Tile could be $9 to $11 a square foot, and that includes the grout and all the mesh and all the prep work, but it doesn't include the tile. It just includes the labor to put it together with the grout and the mortar. And they'll give you a price point. And if you have that price point, whether it's $9 or $11 or $12 a square foot, now you can go to town. You can start putting numbers together. So it's good to ask the square footage guys. Framers, tile, carpet, roofing is based upon squares, which is a 10 by 10 section. That's a square. Framing, same thing. But if it's not based upon like linear drywall, it's actually square footage of the wall feature. If you can add up that, and you can ask them what's your square footage for drywall, then, and if you know that square footage, then you can factor that. I hope that helps you. I'm just trying to cover as much ground as I possibly can to help you put together what you need to put together for your home. Let's take the next question. Muhammad Abdul Razak. Great. Hi, sir. I'm currently in healthcare and wanting to get into trades and become a general contractor in the long run. A lot of people told me that it's not worth as much as a pharmacist make more money post expate. It depends on where you are and where your market is. And the key to being a general contractor is staying power. And contracting and trades is all about weathering ups and downs in the market. And if you can weather ups and downs in the market, and you can do that through one or two ups and downs, you get stability, and then people know you for your stability. Now, I happen to build in a very, very highly competitive market. There are a lot of builders in my market because it's one of the top 5 fastest growing places in America. It's been that way, top 10 for 20, 30 years. It's been that way for a long time. So I'm in a very competitive market. So as a result, I have to up my game. I have to know my stuff. I have to prove my worth by the quality that I accomplish, and I have to keep that up and keep it up and get one client after another client, and then they're very, very happy. They tell their two friends, and those friends tell their two friends, and over a period of time, you get stability in the market. And to believe it or not, it's taken me. I'm in my 50s. I'll just say it that it's taken me a long time to get there, so that now I'm at the top of my game. A lot of people respect me, and it's taken me. My wife could vouch for this. It's taken me 2 decades to get there. So it's a long game. That's what contracting is. It's a long game. So if you're up for that and you can make it a side hustle for just a little while, with maybe some remodels here and there until you get your teeth sunken into some new builds, then it could be that transition for you down the road. So next question. Dubious ownership, great name. Design question: what does a draftsperson need from me before they can produce an architectural plan for a modestly sized house? Grid paper. That you can buy grid paper, and it's that little, 8.5 by 11, and go and design the floor plan that you like, the main floor, and then maybe a second floor. Just have some fun. If you feel uncomfortable with that, go online and look at floor plans. Don't look at house plans, look at floor plans, all right? The way you want it to live, how you function in your home. Some people like it when their kids are getting older and they're building that home that they want to retire into, but their kids are still living with them, but they're early teens. Let's have the kids' rooms way over there, and we'll have our master bedroom way over here. We'll have kitchen and living space in the middle. Some people, it's just the opposite. They want all the bedroom living space over here and all the living space separate from that. How you want to live, map it out, find a floor plan you like, and then go to the draftsperson and go to them with that. Don't go to a draftsperson and with the front of the home. We want a home that looks like this. No, you want a home that you want to live in first and then do the outside later. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but that's the best way to go. Go to that draftsperson with the floor plan you like best. Okay. Next question. Charlie Cernia. I think I said that. Cernia. I hope I didn't butcher that name. I've watched several live streams where you have said not to buy plans online. Could you elaborate on this a little more? Yes, don't do it. Don't do it. There's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it's not quite clear whether or not you are going to be able to get the vector file for that online plan. They'll just send you a PDF, and you're supposed to be able to manipulate that. That needs to go to an engineer, and the engineer needs the vector file. If they don't have the actual either CAD file or the equivalent vector file that they can import into their system, they import that entire drawing, and then they actually recreate art structural plans from those plans. So if you don't have that actual vector file, you're in trouble. And they don't all sell that. And if they do, they'll send it to an engineer and they'll charge you an additional fee for that. The biggest reason for me, though, happens to deal with the plot plan, site plan, and laying out the grading plan, landscape plan, where all the utilities are going to land, how they're going to enter the property, where they start from the property, easements, all that kind of stuff. That's where a draftsperson will do that for you. They'll look at the county records. They'll look at the setbacks, the front, side, rear setbacks. They'll identify those setbacks. They'll identify the utilities, and they'll plot all that on there. If you buy house plans directly from a source, you're going to still have to hire a draftsperson to plug all that stuff in there. So by then, why not just hire the draftsperson, because they're going to do that for you anyway. It's part of their whole package. Instead, just go online and look at some of the plans that you like. Print the floor plans. You can do that. They don't have the dimensions on there, but a draftsperson can figure out what those floor plan dimensions are. And now you've got custom communication. You've got a person working in your best behalf, making the tweaks you want, adding the value where you want to add that value. And you can put descriptors on the entire plans. This roof will be tile or aluminum or high grade architectural or PTO flat roof. You can detail all the things you want on those plans. So now you can send them to the people to get bids with all that descriptive material. So I think I've said enough. You've got enough information to explain why you should not buy plans online. Okay. Okay, honey, Kafina, can you share information regarding radiant cooling panels and cooling tubes? We are going to start building an omniblock house in Michigan and only need air conditioning for about 5 to 8 weeks. You won't need air conditioning per se that much with the omniblock home. If your temperature drops in the evening, this is just my suggestion, without the excessive humidity, you open your window, it's going to cool the house, and then you shut that window in the morning. You've now banked cool temperatures inside your omniblock, and they'll keep you cool throughout the day. Double check with Denny at Omniblock. He'll let you know on that. But as far as the radiant cooling panels, that might just be a wall mount feature. I wouldn't necessarily put the expense in the floor unless you're doing a floor system that is also heating and cooling. Now, there's new technology. I think I can reveal this now, but on the video I did a couple of 2 months ago on floor heating on YouTube, that same company is now promoting heating and cooling in the same floor system. So just really know your climate very well. The thing you want to try to avoid is the high humidity coming into the home. Even if it's a cool night, you might not enjoy that. But check with Denny on that at Omniblock. He will really guide you in the right direction based upon your climate zone and what you may or may not need for that particular area. You may just need just a simple wall mount like you see there. That's a wall mount on an Omniblock wall. And it's not on right now. It's probably a little hotter day today, but it's cool inside right now. And we turn that on probably in about another month or two when it starts to get real hot. So check with Denny on that, and he can give you some great feedback. It's 91 today. Yes, 91 today, and it's really comfortable in here, and that's not on. So that's what I'm saying. Omniblock has that capacity to bank energy, cool energy and heat energy for a long period of time. So if you go through the night and it's cool, it's going to bank all those cool temperatures and carry through the day. It may not carry you through a 100-degree or 110-degree day, but it's 91 out and it's cool inside here. It's actually cooler inside my home than outside. So next question. AS, land is hard to find in Southeast Michigan. Seems to be just subdivisions. How do I find a lot? You can find out if some of those subdivisions sell lots directly to buyers without being stuck with the builder. That's the first thing you can do. And I'm going to tell you right now, with the way the market is, I'm willing to bet you that if I was a developer, I wouldn't be so stingy. I'd say, yeah, you can build, but you have to build within a 2-year frame. We don't want somebody buying a lot and not finishing it out. That could be a part of the stipulation, but you can be your own owner builder. And ask them, can I buy a lot and can I be my own builder? And say, can I bring my own builder? Don't say be owner builder. Can I bring my own builder? And you are your own builder. Okay. Next question. 2 cents. Would you recommend a sewage treatment plant? That's really hard to get approved by local health departments. I know there's a lot of gray water reclamation. There's a lot of black water reclamation systems that are out there. They're quote unquote sustainable or off grid, but that's getting it passed by local health departments is not easy because those health departments have control and they want to maintain that control. I had some good engineer friends who came up with this phenomenal system for water conservation by reacclimating gray water back into the system and treating their own black water. Black water is sewer, gray water is just like tap water that gets in soapy dishes and you're cleaning dishes in the sink. And the waste from that is called gray water. Black water is what comes out of the toilet. That's just black water. Now they had system for managing both of those, but they created a nomadic treatment plant, and it wasn't tied to a watershed or a jurisdiction. And how they got that passed by the state was phenomenal. And the state really had a connection fit that these engineers were able to get that passed. But it's really hard to get a treatment plant approved. Maybe in some very, very rural areas like Alaska, maybe Texas, where you've got so much open space where they don't care you're so far away from most of the metropolitan areas, they might approve stuff like that. But downtown Los Angeles or downtown Vegas, they wouldn't allow for a treatment plant, not at all. So just do your research and find out what you can and cannot do in your areas. Next question. Okay, Alex R. I've followed the advice about the email and calling myself the builder. It's been hard to get answers from contractors about how much per square foot. It's like they don't want to say so I can shop around. Yeah, if you give off the impression that you're shopping around, they kind of have an issue with that. However, you can go to supply houses, lumber yards, tile supply companies, supply roofing companies, supply this, and you see all kinds of guys in there, and you can ask questions. Hey, can you tell me a question? What's the going rate for cost per square foot for installing tile in a bathroom? I'm just curious. And you can ask and find out. And you can also go on Facebook. And right now in my Facebook area, and I'm not a fan of Facebook, but it has its tools. We have one called St. George Word of Mouth. I can literally plug a question in there. It says, hey, I'm looking to hire a tile installer. Can anyone tell me what the going rate is for tile per square footage for flat tile on a floor? I'm just curious. And you'd get people making comment. And pretty soon you'd get some high numbers and some low numbers, and you'd probably pick a little above average number, and then you kind of know where that's at. So it's research and network. And I've talked about this a lot. You have to learn to network. And if you want to learn how to network, go to localcommonwealth.com. And if you're interested in starting up a networking group in your community, let us know. But learn to network online, learn to network in face, learn to network at supply houses. Get out there. I met my plumber that I use right now. He does all my rough and finish work. I have 3 plumbers, but he does my new construction. I've got another plumber who does my remodel work. But my new construction, I met him at a supply house. He was there and I had a question. I go, you're a plumber, right? He goes, yeah, what's your question? He answered my question and I said, I'm a general contractor. You're looking to get some more bids? Sure, no problem. Because he was willing to help me. And that to me was the sign of a great tradesman, is they're willing to help and they're willing to give and they care about the quality of work that you're trying to see get done. And I've used him ever since. I drove up on a job today and he got it done. He got all the rough done in a single day. And some other contractors take 2-3 days. Some others take much longer. You know who you are. But again, supply houses are just wonderful. Go to Standard Plumbing and just hang out on a Saturday, on a Monday morning, probably around 10 o'clock, and you'll see probably a half dozen to a dozen plumbers come in there and just start ordering materials for the day. And just carry yourself like you're a builder. I should actually sell T-shirts or something. I build something, and you just a builder or something, and just buy a T-shirt and walk in and look like you're a builder, and maybe they'll talk with you. That's what I do. This isn't my work shirt. I have a work shirt. It's some polo shirts that I have with my logo on, and everywhere I go, I carry myself as if I'm a builder. And I've got a sign on my truck. It's on the rear of my window, and it says Kelch Construction on it, so they know that they're talking to somebody who can possibly give them a lot of work. So try it. Next question. Mike Kiger, new name, great. We just finished the foundation on our build. What are your thoughts on me installing the rock wool insulation versus hiring a contractor after framing? 2-story, 4,000 square foot. That's going to be a lot of square footage. I've got a decent amount of building experience. Okay. I'm going to tell you the skinny here. Insulation is the cheapest labor install you'll ever do. You're not going to save much money. If you could frame it yourself, you'd save a lot. You save a lot more on framing, but you may not be able to get it done in a timely fashion. Rock wool is not hard to install, and I wouldn't spend the time to try to save on that. I'd try to save somewhere else. But it's really up to you. If you want to go with 30 R value 30 rock wool bats in the walls, that's not hard to install. Put it in there. If you want to go with the comfort bat in the partition walls for soundproofing, you can do that. You can also do the rock wool sound, the safe and sound in the ceilings between the floors. But it's the floor installation that's very, very hard. And it's the attic insulation that's very, very hard. You're going to say to yourself, man, I wish I would have hired someone to do this. The wall, anyone can do that. And you may or may not save money by putting insulation in the walls. But the hard part is the ceiling and between the floors. And then you say to yourself, why am I doing this? With ceiling, I wouldn't put the rock wool. I'd just do some blow in because it can get over the stud work and it can actually get 18 to 24 inches of insulation all blown in. And it's very hard to get that even coat with rock wool. Rock wool is great for sound partitions, exterior walls, and between floors in your floor trusses. But as far as the attic, it's not that great. It's very hard to get coverage. You have to give multiple layers and they have to go over all the stud work, and it's a lot of labor intensive. So you can do it, but I wouldn't recommend it. You're going to find yourself wishing you had somebody come in. If you want to just do the walls and ceiling, fine, then have an insulator come in and do the blow in the attic, do that. To be honest, that's what I do once in a while. Next question. Lovely Beauties Reborns. Okay, great. Can you get the preliminary house plan and take that to an architect instead of buying the full prints online? You can just do a screenshot on that, or you can, and sometimes you can just print that page and say, here's my preliminary plans, the concept I'm kind of going with, and you may come with a couple of other concepts. And here, can we just mesh this together? Can we pull from this idea and go into that one? And yeah, that's if the more ideas your architect or drafts person has to go off of, the better. They're going to create something from what you give them, information you give them. The more details you can give them, the better. Okay, next question. John Ross, can I get plumbing and electrical code books for planning my house? You can. I don't typically recommend other YouTubers, but there's one that I recommend. He's probably the best. It's called Hammerpedia for plumbing. Hammerpedia's got some really good diagrams for plumbing, just phenomenal. And as for electrical, it's called the Dummy Book. I can't remember it's a little manual called the Dumb's Blue Book. Just type in electrical handbook and you'll find the name of it, something called DUMS. I can't remember the name of it. It's a really small one, like about that big. And electrical is going to be harder because you've got to factor in load calculations, how much you can load on a particular circuit. And all circuits are different. There's 14-2 circuits, there's 12-2 circuits, 12-3 circuits, 8-wire circuits, 4-wire circuits, 4-aught, 2-aught, 1-aught. And you have, if you don't know all that stuff, you get really, really confusing, and you don't know what you're doing, and you can make some real serious mistakes. I've seen people make more mistakes in electrical, and then second to that would have to be really terrible mistakes in plumbing. So if you can't follow diagrams, then I wouldn't even bother doing that. But if you have any experience, like I could wire my own home. I was an electrician for a while, but even though it's been several years, I could still do it. I'm just not in the groove of it. And because I'm not in the groove of it, I'd make assumptions based upon what was being done 10, 15 years ago and not what's being done now. And so 10, 15 years ago, everything was done in 12-2 wire. Now, because of costs, they've separated out lighting from plugs, and now plugs are 12-2 wire, and all your lighting is 14-2 wire to save on a little cost on wiring. So things change, and if you don't go about it the right way, you can end up spending more money, spending more on things you don't need to spend on, And it takes, that's why I'm saying it takes immersion. And if you want to be an apprentice electrician and work with an apprentice for 6 months to a year and do wiring on 12, 14 homes, get that under your belt, now you can go do your own home as an owner builder. But I wouldn't recommend being an owner builder with no electrical experience. So it's kind of dangerous. That's why I focus on the biggest cost savings you can have is replacing the general contractor. That's the biggest savings. And you have to feel confident and you have to feel that that's good enough. Cleaning the site's great. If you do have a skill set with a lot of experience from prior life experience, great, do that. But don't try to do something you've never done before. That's a DIY biscuit head move, and you're bound to cost more doing it that way than any other way. So just really know that being your own general contractor is a 10 to 15% or even more cost savings. And if the average home is, 400,000, and if 40 grand on the low level isn't good enough and you want to save somewhere else, then you're kind of cruising for a bruising. So just keep that in mind. Be confident with that cost savings. It's big, and it's almost big enough for everyone. So next question. Dubious ownership, another design question. Why do you recommend that the master bedroom be on the main level with kitchen, laundry? Thanks for the great answer in my first question. I'm going to let my wife answer this. If she can dial in, I think she's got a better answer.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Thanks, because I was thinking, oh, I could answer this one really easily. For resale value, for convenience, I see so many people sell their home because the master bedroom's upstairs and now they're getting older and they need a single level house. So if you can have the master, everything on the main and the extra bedrooms, bonus, whatever, upstairs or in a basement, that's better for resale value and to living there forever. Does that help?
Okay. Yeah, that's really, it's market value and it's appraisal value and for everything down the road and being able to resell it. I happen to live, my wife and I build and sell homes in one of the top retirement communities in the nation. And just about every home, with very few exceptions, almost every home is a zero threshold home, meaning it's a patio home and it's on one level. And that's the biggest selling point because the retired people, as they get into their 70s and 80s, I saw my dad lose the ability to get upstairs in his 80s, and there's no way he could have lived in his prior home. He had to live with me, where it was just 2 steps up and everything's on one level. His whole living space is on one level after he gets up the stoop in the front. But even then, I would get that as a ramp. So it's going to be a big issue for a lot of people as the population ages. And hope that answers the question. Next question. Victor P. Hey, Keith, what is the advantage of mini split AC setup? Controlling your systems each room. For example, my wonderful nephew was staying with us for a couple of days, and it's in a bonus room just behind me here. And I have a mini split unit or a section specifically for that room. I have another one for that bonus room over there. And I have one for our bedroom, which is above me this way to the north. Now, all of those rooms get to have a different temperature during the course of the day without the mini splits turned on. The guest room right here can be colder, and my room, master bedroom, because I have windows literally all the way around, I get passive heat all day long, and it can get hot in there during the day, but not in the room over next door here. So literally, I can control the thermostat temperature of those, and whereas with forced air, I couldn't do that. I can, but it's not as easy. I have to have flappers, and I have to have duct systems that can redirect, and I have to have thermostats in every room, and the cost is not that great. Plus, those flappers in those ducts aren't that great. They don't have the ability to shut off air. Air's still going to get through there, so it's not that efficient. So that's one of the best reasons why I like Now, I like the cassette systems. They're in the ceiling. They're cleaner. They don't have the wall mounts. And they're just efficient. And I can literally live in one room. If it got really bad and during a really cold spell and I lost my job and I couldn't heat my home entirely, I could literally live upstairs in the one room and shut off everything else and limit my energy costs substantially. And I couldn't do that as well with forced air. So it's something to think about. On forced air, it's great to have your open space forced air, but all your ancillary rooms, your dens, your bedrooms, etc., to be in a mini split system. The only problem with mini splits is that you can't put a mini split in a bathroom per se. That's forced air. But that's why I've designed my homes where the bathroom is inside the home right there. You can't tell right now, but on the other side of that wall, around the hallway there's a bathroom, and that bathroom is inside the conditioned space of the home. It's not on the exterior wall of the home where I'm going to have to deal with keeping it cold. So if I keep this whole room and all the temperature around the closet all the way around a constant temperature, it's going to work that constant temperature in the bathroom. So I don't have to have any ventilation in the bathroom, no ventilation in the laundry room, and no heating and ventilation inside the pantry, all in that whole section because it's all within the conditioned space. I'm making myself clear. These are tricks I use to create efficiency in my house and the homes, some of the homes I design. If I want to go full mini split on a home, I try to design it in such a way so that some of those rooms like that are inside the conditioned space of the home. They're not on the exterior of the home. Now I have one bathroom up here this way, and I don't have any heating or cooling in that bathroom at all, none whatsoever. And two of the walls are exterior facing, but they are 2x6 walls with a lot of insulation with a 1-inch foam on the outside of that sheeting with stucco. And so I haven't, and it can get a little cold in that bathroom, but if I crack the door, then the mini splits that are up there kind of work their way in there, and it makes it an ambient constant temperature. So I've not had any problems. But again, I'm lucky. I live in a very mild climate, so I can get away with that. If you're in a very, very harsh, cold climate where it can drop, in the teens for multiple days straight, it's a different story. So that's where forced air and constant temperature flow throughout the entire home, that's going to need to be a plus. You're going to need to focus on that instead. So, Ontology Dragon, what are your thoughts on heated granite tile floors in the kitchen? Already have the granite. It depends on the floor system you're going to use. If it's a electric system or if it's going to be a forced liquid system like water, or a new product, which is kind of like antifreeze type stuff that doesn't freeze. My father had an old bed and breakfast, and he had copper heating system, pipe system throughout the entire facility. Well, anytime you shut down the entire facility and it froze, those copper pipes would freeze and bust, and then he'd have to go through a lot of repairs. It was not fun. And so the new systems they have now, where they're kind of like an antifreeze system, where it flows through and then it can heat, that's great. But as far as a floor heating system, you'll have to find out. I know that heating system would affect wood floors. I don't know if it would affect the granite floors, if there would be an expansion contraction issue to deal with. I would tend to go with an electric system if you can do that. It's probably a little easier to put down, but then if you have a break in the electric wire, then that could be a problem too. I just do some research. I'm starting to get into this a little more myself with some of the clients that I have. And I have not been happy with pushing liquid through a home, but I'm not that great of a fan either with electrical wires you never know if somebody pushes a nail through something and then you got a short and the whole system's gone. So I'm still weighing the pros and cons of both and seeing what I like the most. That's why I do with mini splits and all that. But if you're in a cold climate, you got to get the heat as low as you possibly can, and you got to get it low so it can rise up and heat the room. If you're in a cold climate and you've got vents up high, it's going to have a hard time working its way down below where you want comfort. There's some radiant heat products that are out there, and they had them in drywall and they had them in the ceiling. And what that system would do is it would push radiant heat down through the air of the living space, and it would land on something physical. It'd land on a box or something, the table, chairs, and it would warm those. And those pieces of furniture would in turn warm the room. But again, it's a kind of a radiant situation. You might want to find out and do some research on those as well. So with more research, you'll eventually find what you want to do. So, okay, next one. My wife's, we have lots of questions here. Okay, Abraham Gregorian, that's a cool name. I've approved plans, stated survey and foundation, the 15 feet easement on my plans. My new ADU back is right on 15 feet easement. What should my fence be? Where should my fence be? Should be on the property line. So if you've got a 15-foot easement, you should maintain that 15-foot easement. Now, go talk to your building department, and sometimes they allow you to have setbacks that encroach on the back of the home. They just don't like setbacks to encroach on the front, getting close to their utility lines and all that. Just talk with your local building department to ask them where you can put this, where you can literally put that EDU, and if you can encroach on a setback. Okay, next question. Tech fan. Hi, Keith and family. I'm in Tucson, Arizona. My question is about a stem wall foundation. The engineer designed the bottom of the footing to be 1.5 feet below natural soil, which is probably going to be the case in Arizona. You don't have a lot of freezing temperatures, and that's actually what's considered a shallow foundation. So I wouldn't suspect that to be a problem, especially in Tucson. If you're in Flagstaff, it's a different story. You're going to have a 36-inch frost depth, but not where you are. Okay. Let's see. How do I handle that when I have brush and trees that need to be dug out? What's your suggestion? Dig out the brush and trees first, recompact your soil, and then dig your footings for the proper shallow depth. So you got to get all that organic matter out of there first, and then rebuild your soil, recompact it, and then do your footings. Okay. That answers the question. So again, you're going to want to clear out. You should not have any organic matter larger than your pinky in your soil. And in fact, no capillary structures, no root structures that are small, because if you have too much, that's going to rot. You recompact your soil, that's going to rot, and eventually your soil is going to settle like that, and you're going to have problems in your foundation. Get rid of all that organic matter, then recompact, and then dig your footings. Make sure you follow your geotech. Crystal Lachelle, wanting to go with a ranch-style 2,000 square foot home. What are a couple of pros and cons for building a ranch versus a multiple-story home, aside from saving money on foundation with building up instead of out? It's going to be easier to frame. First of all, it's going to have a larger roof, so your roof bid's going to be higher than if you go 2-story, and you're not going to have scaffolding all the way around the home for that second story. The only area for scaffolding is going to be the end of the home on your gable ends, unless you go with a hipped roof structure. Look up my course, and I give a whole diagram on roofs. And here's something people don't know, and I'll just keep this simple. By eliminating scaffolding around the home entirely, you can go back to your subcontractors and say, hey, this is a single level, reach and install. I'm not more than 9 feet up. You have buckets and boards you can put up, and it's easily accessible. It's not a huge scaffolding cost involved, and you can kind of negotiate some prices on that. I've got a 2-story home where I have to have scaffolding. My framer cannot finish without scaffolding, so I'm kind of stuck there. So see how these things surface. I have got to go rent scaffolding so he can put it up. And that's another cost involved. So we're now changing that to stucco, because the stucco guys are going to have scaffolding. So I'm timing it so that he can finish the soffit under the eave of the roof when the stucco guy's there, and I can use his scaffolding and I'll have to go rent some. These are things I think about, weird things I think about when I'm building a home. But I would try to keep it one level if your land allows for that. The reason you go 2 levels is typically because you're limited on land size and you're going vertical. There's other reasons why I go vertical as well, but I don't want to spend too much time on that. Let's go with the next question. AS, Angie, are builders uptight about letting the homeowner do things like interior painting, trim work, and installing cabinetry, also toilets and light fixtures, etc.? Thanks. Here's the truth, all right? The real truth of this. Builders make money on the front end of the home, not the back end of the home. Builders really don't like taking homes all the way to the finish because look at it. Framing, $25,000 for the framer, $30,000 for the lumber package. Altogether, that's $60,000. If they're going to charge 10% on that, on the minimum, that's $6,000 plus for the month of work done on a home. Now, painting, $3,500, maybe $6,500. 10% on $6,500 is $650 versus $6,000. That's how builders think. They make all their money on the guts and structure of the home. They don't make as much money on the finished side of the home. All right. And where do builders tend to lax or become lazy? On the finished side, because that's where they don't make as much money. So if you can come to a builder and say, tell you what, I'll give you 10% if you get me the shell and get me the 7-way inspection and do all the outside and all that. But can I do X, Y, and Z? And it might say yes, because they're still going to make good money on it without the headache. Now, would I ever do that as a builder? No, I've been there. I've done that. Won't ever do that again. But you might find a builder who will do that. I might do it with someone I like, but that takes time to build up a relationship of trust. I recently did that, and it turned out to be an absolute nightmare because the owner builder got in my way and started talking to my subcontractors and making a muck of things and actually causing some damage to his own home. Blamed it on me. I took responsibility for it. Come to find out it wasn't me. It was something that he did. And it gets to be a big he said, she said, you did this. No, I didn't do that. So if you're not clear on your contract, you're not clear on that whole process, you're gonna run into some problems. But you never know. You might find a builder that you have a good relationship with. And if you do have that, then try it. See if that works. Next question. Let's see here. Oh, what's that, honey? Oh, good. We're done. Okay. We're going to be here next week. Again, every Thursday from 5 to 6 Mountain Standard Time. Ask the Builder. I'll just tell you what I've been through. My best guess, the best information I can give you. Make sure you like and subscribe and give some feedback on the channel. We're watching that closely. We're growing. We've had 2 million views. We crossed that threshold. We've got over 300 videos, and go to howtobuildyourownhome.com. It's got the stuff you need. It's got the budget you need, the draw sheets you need, the subcontractor agreements, the checklists up the wazoo. And we're currently going through a very detailed process of updating a lot of those checklists. I can't explain what we're going through, but we're going through a very rigorous process. The first steps course has all been revamped. It's all brand new. All the checklists, all the download files are new. And now we're going through the whole thing with the self-managed package. We're going to be even adding some checklists as well to that. It's got everything you need. And it's invaluable. And the price point is not that difficult. And I've known people that say, you should charge more, but I want to help as many people as we can. And check it out. How to build your own home. Everything's there. Thanks everybody for being here. And we'll be here next Thursday from 5 to 6 Mountain Standard Time every week. You guys take care.